Big whoops and meows. This is the Louisiana SPCA coming to you with all things disaster preparedness in partnership with the SPCA of Texas, because when disaster strikes, it's important to have a plan in place to keep you and your pets together.
We are very excited for this. Thank you, Courtney, so much for joining us. So Courtney, do you want to start by kind of introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you do at the SPCA of Texas.
Sure, yeah. As you guys mentioned, my name is Courtney Burns. I'm the Chief Investigator here at the SPCA of Texas. And my role here focuses on animal cruelty investigations as well as disaster response. So that includes coordinating efforts to help animals and their owners during emergencies. I do planning, logistics, and deployments when disasters strike. Everything from setting up temporary shelters to supporting local agencies that need extra hands on the ground.
Awesome. And I want to get a little bit more into that, Courtney, if you could. I know the SPCA Texas for many years has been a key player in disaster response. Can you tell me your part and how the organization's role in some of those major disasters went about, and how you guys have assisted just things for your shelter, but also other communities as well?
Sure, yes. So our main role is to protect the animals and support the people who care for them. And that can look a little different depending on the situation. So sometimes we're helping a local shelter that's been damaged or overwhelmed. Other times we'll deploy to another part of Texas or even out of state, like to Louisiana. We've been there a couple times, at least since I've been here. We'll help with rescuing and sheltering and transport out of the affected areas. And we also step in to operate temporary shelters for evacuees and their pets, like we did during Hurricane Harvey. We set up a big emergency shelter and operated it for, I think, 32 days. So our goal is always to reduce the burden on local agencies and to make sure that no animal is left behind.
That's amazing. And I mean, I know that maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I think we do definitely do a lot to help other organizations and assist with disaster. I know that it is Hurricane Katrina's 20th anniversary, and I do want to kind of add that the SPCA of Texas was able to assist Louisiana SPCA and a lot of other shelters during Hurricane Katrina. And we actually took in about 200 animals during that time. And then Hurricane Katrina was also kind of paved the way. I don't know if Christian, if you guys have kind of mentioned this, but it paved the way for the Pet Evacuation and Transport Standards Act of 2006, and kind of like all of making it a requirement for states and organizations to have a plan in place for household pets and service animals like during a disaster. And I think that's really, really cool that kind of out of something that was so tragic, that we were able to put laws in place that protect animals. So Courtney, how does your team prepare kind of year-round for any disaster to make sure that you guys are ready to respond quickly when needed?
Yes, you made a very good point there. With Hurricane Katrina, I think one of the biggest lessons was that people will not evacuate unless they can take their pets with them. And so, yeah, and it's something, as you mentioned, being prepared year round. Preparedness is constant for us. It's not something that we only think about during hurricane season because it can happen anytime. We train pretty much regularly and maintain supplies and equipment. And we also run tabletop field exercises with our partners. We also do after action reviews whenever we have done some sort of event, looking at what worked and what didn't work after each deployment so that we can strengthen our response for next time. So it's kind of a cycle of preparation, response, and then reflection, and that's what keeps us ready all the time.
One of the other questions I really wanted to kind of just ask about, or just kind of get your insights on the effective ways to ensure animals are in emergency plans and response. And I want to talk about those lessons learned from Katrina all the way to Hurricane Harvey, of how are we speaking to not only our state representatives, our local representatives, but also people, just our community, and how do you all do that? How does the SPCA of Texas speak to those three different groups to make sure not only that you know that your government has a plan in place, but you should also have a plan in place, because it's important to put your family first as well, and that includes our pets.
Yes, absolutely, and it is it's on us and it's on our local government and all that. I think with the SPCA of Texas, it's been very important to us to make sure that when we work with government, emergency management, that they understand that the pets cannot be an afterthought. It has to be a part of the plan. And so I think that, integration and making sure that there is a plan for the pets before the disaster happens is really important. So at the SPCA of Texas, like I mentioned, we do partner with emergency management and kind of try to drive that home, that needs to be the most important thing. It has gotten better over the years, I've noticed. I think like with each event, we get a little bit better at collaborating with the human emergency management versus animal and like actually working together. So I'm seeing some improvement, but we still have a long ways to go. But also, like you said, it also comes down to us as pet owners and making sure that we're prepared at home as well.
And how valuable do you think those collaborations are? If we didn't have them in place, where do you think we would be at?
Oh, it would be, you think about it, like we've got this act now where we can, it's required that animals are included in the disaster plan and are part of being evacuated. But once we get to an emergency shelter, there's still that separation. And if people can actually stay with their pets and actually care for the animals, it's less of a burden on the animal organizations that have to care for them. Like, let the people take care of their own pets, Yeah. And a lot of these people have lost everything, and if they can be with their pets, that helps them as well. So again, I think that there's some work that needs to be done and we'll get there, but it is getting better every year.
From your experience, what are some of the most common mistakes people make when preparing or not preparing for disasters regarding their pets?
I think that the most common mistake is thinking that we still have enough time to prepare. And disasters happen so fast, and I don't think that, I don't think we think about, do I have a pet carrier to put my cat in, if I have to leave my house quickly? Also, do my pets have updated identification tags? But more importantly, are they microchipped? And I think the biggest thing that I've seen when doing disaster deployments, and I saw this a lot in Bastrop during the wildfires, is the microchip information isn't updated. So we think, maybe we get our phone number changed, we change our address. We don't think to call the microchip company, right? So that is an issue. So I think something that we need to take into consideration is updating the microchips, but also, when you go to the vet and you're having a wellness exam, have the vet scan for the microchip just to make sure it's still there, because sometimes those things migrate or they fall out, so it's always good to just make sure it's there. That's the biggest thing for me. And I think it's like you could possibly lose your pet forever, so very important.
You kind of mentioned wildfires, and I want to talk about, obviously this conversation is about disaster preparedness. And Louisiana also, I'm sure for Texas, we are states that border the Gulf of America, so we are right on that coast. And so, as you know, we are in storm season, but there are so many other disasters that people face. And it's not just hurricanes and tornadoes, it's also fires. And what are some of the other disasters that you have encountered throughout your time at the SPCA, Courtney?
Well, we get a lot of tornadoes here in Texas, Tornado Alley. But as you guys know, we just recently had some pretty bad flooding down in Kerrville. So that was kind of a new experience for us. The fires was also, very different. It is a very different kind of scenario. And a lot of medical stuff has to go on, triaging with the animals, like burn victims and stuff like that. And again, that kind of drives home why microchips are so important, because when we did our response during the wildfires, a lot of these animals didn't look anything like they normally looked like after they had been subjected to fires. And I know that sounds sad, but so people couldn't recognize their pets when they're coming to look for them. So it was just crucial that these microchips were up to date and they were able to reunite quite a few animals that way. But it's just something you don't really think about,
No, I think that's a very valid point to make. And even bringing up, like, if you're already at the vet, you might as well have them check
scan it,
and see, and then
We'll do
update
it
it.
for free.
That's such a valid thing that is very practical and easy to do,
Yeah.
but it's just something that you don't really think about.
Right.
What are a few simple but very important steps that families can take today to make sure that their pets are safe and ready in case of an evacuation? I know we've kind of talked a little bit about microchipping, but what are some other?
I would say start small, but start now. You can have like a go bag ready for your pets, you know, and I like to have, you know, something with like maybe some food bowls in it. You can put medications in it, any veterinary records. I think it's a good idea to have a photo of you with your pet in your go bag, just because in the event that you do get separated and you need to prove ownership, I think it's helpful to have something like that. And just be ready, you know, have it sitting in a closet somewhere in case something happens, you know, and it might not be a natural disaster. It could be it could be a house fire. It could be, you know, a gas leak or something like that. You don't have to wait until, like I said, hurricane season to get your go bag ready to go. I think that would help.
We've done our go bag challenge, and it literally takes, you know, less than 5 minutes to put everything that you might need together. And it can save so many lives and be so integral into that reuniting with your pets. Yes.
Definitely agree. I do want to also ask, we kind of talked about it a little earlier in the discussion, but kind of some of those lessons learned. But I also want to talk about those experiences that you've seen and how people and their pets can just, let's say, push back or just push back from pain and also push back from disparity, and how you've seen the resilience and also the community support when so many people are struggling during disasters, when people have lost their pets. And let's just not talk about in terms of I've lost my pet and now I'm in a situation, but you've also lost your home or if you've been separated from your family. How is bringing those people together, and how's that community support and that resilience that you've seen inspiring you to move forward and inspiring, I'm sure not only it inspires us to do our mission at the Louisiana SPCA, but how does it kind of push the mission at the SPCA of Texas?
Well, you're very right. And it's you see, you know, in such bad situations, you really get to see it bring out the best in people. And it is so cool to see communities rally together and people helping each other. And it kind of like restores your faith in humanity. But it's also cool to see the pets being a part of that too. So I know like when we were responding to Hurricane Harvey and we built a shelter, and getting to see those pet owners with their pets after they had lost everything. You know, we had a woman that had 9 dogs that brought them all with her, 9 large dogs to the shelter, because that's how much her babies meant to her, you know?
You can't leave your crew. You can't. You gotta.
Yeah, like all of her possessions behind, but 9 large dogs came with her. And I think that says a lot about the human-animal bond, you know? But also, yeah, just seeing people rally together to help each other and seeing the resilience, and especially in my time in Louisiana, like it was just crazy, like how powerful communities can be. And, you know, it just, like I said, it just goes to show, even in the worst times, you know, it really does bring out the best in people.
Looking ahead, what are some of the big next steps for organizations with disaster-related responses across the country and locally?
Yes, I think, as I mentioned before, I think the next big step is integration and making sure that animals are part of emergency planning at every level. Again, not an afterthought. And I think when emergency managers and animal welfare organizations and public safety all plan together, everybody is safer, humans and animals.
So Courtney, I really want to ask about what has been that emotional response from yourself that has kept you going during these times. What have you seen? Just if you could kind of tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I think when the disaster is happening, and I think when I'm in the moment, I think all the emotions kind of have to be put in a little box and set aside for the time being, because I'm in business mode, you know, and we got to make sure that, you know, things are getting taken care of. But it's really important to take time to decompress after stuff like this, because you don't realize how much of a toll it will take on you emotionally. It's just highs and lows. You know, you're so upset, and it's so devastating to see people that are hurting and animals that are hurting. But then again, like, you see that community resilience that gets you going again. So I think it's trying to find that delicate balance and how to manage it. But I think at the end of the day, just in general, it really keeps me going and it keeps me inspired to keep doing this kind of work.
And as we talk about that balance on those kind of measures set in place to protect yourself, but also know that you are there to help, is that also how you kind of connect with your team and how you kind of guide them through these situations as well?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that, again, me being in a sort of a leadership position, it's important to take care of my team as well and recognize, when there is an emotional toll being taken on them, and know when to, and knowing that it's okay to take a break, especially, during disaster deployments. You get about a week in and you really start feeling it, but it's like I say, you can't pour from an empty cup. And so making sure you can step back, decompress, because you're not doing any good for anybody if you're not taking care of yourself. And I think that's important for our teams as well.
We're so excited to talk to you, Courtney. Thank you for sitting with us today. Also, thank you, SPCA of Texas, for having this important conversation. And of course, for anyone at home who wants to prepare for disaster ahead of time, before it strikes, always make sure to reach out to your local government. For the Orleans Parish, and also I would love SPCA of Texas, if you can tell for your community, but for Orleans Parish residents, if you need evacuation assistance, you can always reach out to the New Orleans City Assistant Evacuation Plan at nola.gov/ready for more assistance. And if you are outside of the Orleans Parish area, you can just reach out to your Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness for assistance.
And in Texas, that's our Office of Emergency Management. We'll have the links below, so just reach out to them.